All right, all right. Come on, family, let's come back together. Let's come back together. Y'all got some coffee now. You should be jumping in your seats. There we go. Woo. All right. I'm super excited about this one, guys. I'm super excited about this one. What I'm going to be talking about during this session is really about building a team from scratch. How to build a team from scratch. And I want to give you some practical things to building your team from scratch. So my name is Marquis Dolford. I get to serve as the worship pastor at Celebration DC. And I'm super excited about that, to join the family. When I got to Celebration DC, we had a team of 0. We had nobody there. We had nobody there but the amazing congregation that led worship every week. Anybody know about that, where it's the congregation that's leading? And so that was super exciting. And now, here we are a year later, we have a full team of 18 worship leaders, as well as 5 worship musicians that are volunteers on our team. And so there was a few things and strategies and practical things that I implemented to build in this team that I want to share with every leader today, okay? All of you all that are here, some things you might hear and you might say, oh, that's not for me, that's for the worship pastor. But honestly, what I believe is everybody that's a part of the worship team are worship leaders. And it's a full team's collective to be responsible for the worship team, okay? So here we go. I'm going to give you 8 essential ingredients, okay? I like to cook. Anybody like to cook in here? Yeah, I like to cook, okay? And it's important to have good ingredients, okay? One missed ingredient can mess up an entire dish. Y'all know that, right? It could be the little thing of salt, okay? And it can mess up the entire dish, right? So I'm going to give you 8 ingredients today, all right? The first one, that in order to have an essential, thriving worship ministry, you need clear vision and values. You need clear vision and values. I want you to take a moment and I want you to think on a scale 1 to 10, how clearly do you see the future of the ministry that you're serving in? Just think about that. Can I see it clearly? Or the second thing I want you to think about is how frequent do you either as a leader communicate the vision, or as the team member, how often do I share the vision with each other? Not only can I see it, but can I articulate the vision? Vision is all about direction on where the Lord is taking the ministry. That is very key, okay? Seek the Lord for vision for his ministry, right? Remember that God is not withholding any good thing from us. So God is not trying to withhold vision from you when he tells us and requires us to seek vision, right? It tells us, hey, a man without vision, what perishes, right? So it's important for us to have vision, right? The other thing is it's important for us to have values, right? Values are the things you celebrate and encourage, who you want your team to be and how you want them to behave. That's important. Okay? So from a worship pastor or worship leader perspective, you can't lead the team without a clear vision. You would need to see where you guys are going and then be able to share that vision clearly with the full team. From a worship member perspective, right, if you just say, hey, I'm on the team, you need to understand, how do I align the vision that God has set for the team? How do I align myself with that vision? Because I often say any vision that's outside of the vision is division. And a lot of times you can see a lot of ministries fail because worship members have created their own ideas, their own perspectives, their own preferences, like my brother said, within the ministry. They have created their own vision. They often say, well, hey, I want it to look like this. I want it to look like that. This is not what I'm used to. Uh-oh. I want it to be like this. Remember, vision is what you see and need, and values are what you celebrate and encourage. Okay? So I'm going to give you some practical things. We like to say, how do we implement this thing, right? How do I do this? The first thing you should do is maybe get away for a second. Take a pen, take a paper, go on a little self-retreat, right? And get with the Lord and get vision. Remember, this is the Lord's team. Right? So I need to get away. Often, every December, I take a trip. I go away for a weekend, and I ask God for vision for the upcoming year, right? And I say, God, I want vision for my steps and what you want me to do in my life, but then also every place that I'm leading in, right? And also every place that I'm submitted to, right? Because even though you may not be leading in a place, you still add value by submitting to the vision where you're submitted. Right? And so I'm like, okay, God, I want vision, right? And so I go and I seek him uninterrupted time. And sometimes we need to do that, right? So that God can download and speak to us. So get away. And some things that you might ask yourself that I normally ask myself when I'm writing things down, I say, what does the ministry look like currently? Who is there with me in the ministry? Who are you going to send to the ministry? What should I be looking out for? Right? So then that way, I don't just go and accept any and everything. Right? What are you guys currently doing for your sets, your worship sets? Is that aligned to the vision? Right? Or if God set a new vision and you're going in a new direction, how can you implement new songs, new sets? Right? I may ask, like, what kind of gear do I need? Right? What things I need to ask leadership and those kind of things are part of the executing this vision. What does the corporate worship experience look like as well? Because it's one thing for us to do a lot of things as well, and it's not being received by the congregation as well, right? As worship leaders, as worship team members, we are there to guide the congregation, to keep them engaged and worshiping our Father. How is the congregation receiving our current worship experience? And from the value side, so that's from the vision side. Those are some questions that I asked. But from the value side, I will say, hey, if someone came from another church to observe the worship team, what words would I want them to say about our worship ministry? That comes with the values, right? And you will want to make sure that you use single words, maybe 3 to 7, in defining the behavior of your team, right? The values side is all about the behaviors of your team, right? So an example could be like, hey, we are a loving team. We are worshipers. We are servants. We are progressing. We are committed. Right? These are things I want people, if they came from the outside, to come in, and I want them to say about our worship ministry. Right? That's the first practical thing. The second practical thing you could do is when God gives you a vision and values which becomes your culture, you want to post them everywhere you can. Okay, put them on the wall, put them in your rehearsal rooms, put them in your offices, write them on your notes. You want to make sure that you keep it in front of you because what? Culture leaks. It's like a bucket pouring right out. So you want to be sure that you are consistently communicating the vision of the team. You want to consistently do that. The third thing is you want to celebrate when you see a team member exemplify the culture and the values, the vision. If you see it, celebrate it. We don't do a lot of celebrating like we should anymore, you know? But I know you guys do. I know you guys do. I'm not talking about you guys. I know you guys do. But we're Celebration Church, so we should be celebrating, right? When we see those things, if you said, hey, we are a loving team, and you see someone love on them, pull them to the side, and it's okay to say, hey, I saw that you loved on that person. To God be the glory, right? Show them that you've seen them implement what you have been saying as a leader. But also, too, which is the fourth one, is hold them accountable when they're not exemplifying the vision. It is okay to have conversations, to pull people aside and say, hey, that's not the culture of our team. I would like to encourage you, or I would challenge you to, right? You want to encourage them, hold them to that standard. That's important. And that takes me to my second essential thing that's needed. It's healthy culture and relationships. Healthy culture and relationships are important, right? I got a question. So a question for you guys. What is one area, right, of the culture that seems unhealthy right now where you're serving? Just think about it. Either from a worship leader perspective or from a worship team member, or even a worship musician. What's one area that seems unhealthy? Are there any toxic team members that are part of the team? What is one activity that maybe you can suggest that will help strengthen the team? Have any of you all ever been a part of an organization, it could be work, outside of church or whatever, that had a bad culture? People were talking about each other and treating each other nasty, and it was just, am I the only one that experienced that? Is there anybody that experienced that? Okay, cool. I see a few hands. Great. It's good not to feel alone. Thank y'all. And, and also, too, have you ever experienced a good culture where there was motivation, where there was joy, there was collaboration, there was celebration? Well, guess what? As a leader, you are responsible for shaping the team's culture. You are responsible for shaping that culture. It is our responsibility. Your culture is created by what you celebrate and what you tolerate. That is very important. Culture is how people interact with one another. It is made up of all these micro interactions that come together that makes the culture what it is. And if you begin to let little things slip through in those micro interactions, it will become your culture. It will become your culture. It only takes small investments to make, huge compound, right? Small investments. It's the same thing when you allow little things that don't get confronted. They actually start spreading through the team. It starts to infect things. We went to, what was the place we went to the other day? The flower place. Tell me. That's where we went, right? And, they were walking around the garden, and as they were the people that were attending to the garden, and they asked, like, what were they looking for? Like, they were looking very hard, right, within the garden and the flowers. And the guy shared with us what they were looking for. Basically, they were looking for any signs of illness, right? Because if they saw it, they needed to pull it up, because if not, it will spread, and it has the potential of destroying the entire land that was there, right? That's how it is when you do not nip things that are outside of your culture in the bud. It has the ability to destroy what God has sent to be a blessing, right? So every team member adds or subtracts to this culture. Right? Every single team member. If you're on the team, you can either add in or you're subtracting. It's not one or the other. You're either adding or subtracting. We all need to be accountable to the culture. Okay? Just because you aren't the leader, quote unquote, right, doesn't mean that you don't have the responsibility to support, build, and embrace the culture of the team. Everybody has that responsibility. So let me give you some practical things, right? Because we got to make it practical. The first thing is you need to look at yourself. How are you interacting with the team? If there's gossip that's existing on your team, 9 times out of 10 is stemming from you. That was a hard truth when I first started worship leading that I did not want to admit to myself. Can I be transparent? I felt things from team members, and what I would do sometimes, it was like not intentional, right? Because I was like, man, I just need to vent to someone. I just need to share with them, like, hey, like, man, that really bothered me. I didn't go to the person. I went to another person on the team. And I was just like, hey, I didn't really like that, That's gossip. That's gossip. And so then now they have now taken that And they've now spread it that. They've now gained a perspective of a person. You've now put a burden on that person. Now, after you move on from that situation, they're still harboring on it. How many things have we put on people when it was never their responsibility to carry? Y'all are now best friends, but they still holding on to it. Right? So you got to look at yourself. Am I a positive person? Am I celebrating people? Am I speaking value and believing in people? You need to believe in people. Tell them, I see you being a great worship leader. You have an amazing voice. You are so submitted to God. Let's celebrate people. Create a family environment where everybody feels like they belong. Those are things that you can do. Everybody can bring that. The second thing, this one's good. Be honest and straightforward. Be honest and straightforward. Honesty will build trust within your team. Do not leave your team guessing or questioning what you mean or how you feel. Be very direct. There is power in directness. Don't engage in conversations, what we were talking about before. Don't engage in conversations that are talking about people behind their back and all of that kind of stuff. No, be forward. Go. What Matthew 18 tells us, if you have an ought with your brother, go directly to them first. And if you're not going to them first, you need to be going to the Holy Spirit. God, how do I say this? Give me the words and the language so that when I go to my brother, I can say it in a way of love and not because of how I feel. Deal with your feelings first before you go talk to somebody. Okay? The third thing is show care. Let your team members know that you care about them more than you care about their gift. It's about people. It's about development. Right? Invite the bystanders into the conversation. If you see somebody that's outside, over in the corner, tucked away, and you guys are having a conversation, go over there and bring them. Say, I see you. I'm inviting you. Send a text message to encourage somebody throughout the week. Don't just wait till Sunday. Don't wait till a rehearsal. Stay in constant communication. Maybe open your home. Offer a meal. Do life together. That's important. Okay? The third essential thing that's important, is very, very important, is spiritual hunger and passion. How spiritual hungry are you? How is your own spiritual hunger and discipleship and disciples of personal worship and prayer? Discipline of personal worship and prayer. Are you creating moments to be devoted to the Lord? Somebody shout out to me, what are some ways that you stay passionate for the Lord? Just anything. What do you think? Music. Come on. What else? Prayer. What else? Bible reading. What else? One more. Community. Dancing. Praising the Lord. Yes. These are vital. These are vital. The thing I want to share with you guys is, are you currently dealing with a team that is not spiritually hungry? Well, guess what? You are partially responsible for that. Right? As leaders that you are, worship ministry has not been about making music, but about making disciples. Worship ministry is an excuse for folks to be able to do life together. It's the platform for us to be discipled by Jesus Christ in community. Right? God wants us to hunger and thirst for righteousness, not performances. So let me give you some practical things to implement that. Like you said, consistently having a private prayer life is important. Right? Cultivate a private worship experience. What you do on this platform is literally illuminated your private life. If you're not exercising and practicing, and I use that loosely, practicing in private, you're going to get up here and it's going to be total opposite of what the life that you live. It's not genuine. It's because you have an audience now. So now is the glory for God or for you? Right? The third, do the Bible studies. Have Bible studies throughout the week. Grab some buddies together and say, hey, let's study. Let's study God's word together. If no one will join you, Jesus it will. So have it. The fourth one, encourage purity in our lives. It is so important for us to live a pure life. Pure in our minds and our actions and our thoughts and our words. Purity all the way around. That is very important. It says, who can ascend into the high mountains of the Lord? Those who have what? Clean hands and a pure heart. Purification is important. Make sure that worship leaders are present in the church. You should not only show up when it's time for you to serve. I don't come to service to be seen. I come to serve. I come to grow with community. Right? So if the only time people see you is when it's time for you to sing, I question that. Okay? And the last thing is to maybe have night of worships at your house. Call some friends over and say, hey, I got a keyboard in the living room. Let's worship. And if I don't, there's thousands of karaoke worship tracks out there. Right? Be your own DJ and worship God, right? Come on, right? That's important. Okay, let me go to 3. I'm running out of time. Let's go to the next one. The next one that is very important is clear and consistent communication. Woo! Clear and consistent communication, right? What modes of communication are you using? Is your leaders using, right? Modes of communication could be group chats, emails, FaceTime. In these days, everybody can jump on FaceTime now, right? Face-to-face meetings. Or how connected and engaged are your team members engaged to what's happening in the ministry? These are just questions to ask yourself. You can't have a thriving ministry if you don't clearly communicate. It's important that a good leader possess good communication. Your team should hear from you regularly and often. What I normally do with my team, even while I was here, we have a group chat and I'll just say, hey guys, I'm praying for you. Sometimes I'll just record a video on my phone in the middle of the day of me just praying, and I'll just throw it in the group chat. They'll see it whenever they see it. But I'm just continually being present and I'm communicating with them. Also, so the other thing that I do often is I'll call somebody. Say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm checking on you. I didn't see you like this message. I just wanted to make sure you got it. Right? Okay? You know? You didn't accept my Planning Center invite, so I just wanted to make sure you would go and accept that, you know. It's Sunday night, you know you're serving tomorrow, right? Like, go ahead and accept it, you know. Man, it sends me on a little panic. I see that little yellow thing there, right? Right, so let me give you some practical things for communication. Pick 1 or 2 communication mods, right? Whatever that is, be consistent in it. What I use is Band app for our team. Our team is there, and most of the time, through Band app, I put informal communications in there, whether it's, hey, you know, rehearsals running a little late, meetings or whatever the case may be, that'll go through there. And then I'll send emails for formal communication. I do that so my team knows exactly where to find information, right? So make sure that you have a consistent, don't go to Facebook Messenger and send a message over here and then I'm going over there to text message, put something there and then I'm all over the place. Be consistent in your communication. Define expectations is the second thing. It's okay to share with your team, hey, I'm expecting that when I send you something, you maybe respond back. Heart it, like it, right? I would love to, you to respond back to the Planning Center invites that I send out, right? Just don't leave them there. You get what I'm saying? Be clear in your communication. Get right to the point. Maybe in your emails you put in the subject line, mandatory meeting, 9:15 at 3 p.m. that day. It's very clear. We have a meeting on this day at this time. Right? Be very clear in your communication. And then also be present in your communication. Let your team hear from you often. Over-communicate. If you put it in one area, put it in another area. It is your job as leaders to communicate effectively. It might take a little bit more out of you, but it is your responsibility to communicate effectively. Okay? The next thing, it takes me to my next ingredient, is strong administrative systems. Ooh. Who got good administrative systems for their worship team? Go ahead, raise your hand. Oh, praise the Lord. Okay. Well, I guess everybody could benefit from this one here, okay? What areas of your ministry needs more structure? Think about that. What areas of the ministry need more structure and a routine? And how can you improve the resources that you send to your team each week? These are things to think about. Behind any healthy ministry has a strong administrative system that brings order, stability, reliability, and efficiency to your team. I'm going to say that again. Any healthy ministry has strong administrative systems that bring order, stability, reliability, and efficiency to your team. Okay? You've got to have these things. Administrative systems are things that you do on a repeated basis with a repeated desired outcome. Okay, it's the things we do over and over and over. When things are stable, you will be able to move beyond just surviving. Okay, when you stabilize things, you'll be able to move on beyond just getting by, getting things settled. Don't spend your time trying to find last-minute musicians to serve and, you know, it's Sunday and I got to jump on this and I'm bottled down with all of these things. No, I'm going to schedule things out ahead. I want to get things kind of settled a little bit so then I can focus on development. I can focus on pastoring. I can have time to do fellowship in life. We can go out and grab a bite to eat, right? I can focus on maybe a worship recording. Whatever your desires or goals for the ministry is, right? You have that time. The benefit of having good systems in place, it attracts high volunteers. High-quality volunteers. High-achieving people do not want to be a part of something that's chaotic and confusing and poorly run. You want high-quality and high-achieving people? Upgrade your systems. Upgrade your systems. People gravitate to things that are excellent. So let me give you some practical things. The first practical thing is schedules. Determine what the schedule is going to be. If it's, for me, Mondays, I normally send out the songs. Tuesdays, I normally have all my worship rehearsals and meetings and all of that kind of stuff on Tuesday. Okay? Wednesday, I normally send out the attire. And then Thursday, I normally upload everything into PC and Planner Center, make sure that that's good to go. And then Friday is my sabbatical or just my day of rest, right? Saturday is prep. It's getting all of the tracks and everything together, and then Sunday is go time. That's what my week looks like. Your weeks may be different based on your team needs, okay? Not just your needs, your team needs. Remember, as leaders, you are coaches. You are supporters. It's not about you, it's about your team, right? So figure out what works best for your team, right? So if your team say, hey, can you do the scheduling for people, which I advise, a month out in advance. Let's look at the whole month of May. Let's see who's going to serve on the first week, the second week, the third week, the fourth week, and go ahead and schedule them. We'll add the songs later, but at least people can plan for whether they have time with their family, vacations, whatever the case may be. You already have that plan in place. The second thing is use good resources. Have good core charts. Review your core charts. Have good YouTube videos that people can practice to and listen to. Send that out to them. Find tutorial videos for your worship musicians. It's your responsibility. It's hundreds on YouTube, right? Maybe you even want to take it to the next level and say, for your worship vocalist, I'm going to record voice memos of what I'm hearing happening on that Sunday morning so that they can listen to and prepare. It is your responsibility to prepare them. Okay? The next one I'm going to take us to of essential things that you need is development and growth pathways. What are you trying to do to actively, or what are you doing to actively train your team? What is one area of focus that your team needs training? Is it stage presence? Is it dynamics? Is it song memorization? Is it vocals? Right? If you want the ministry to thrive, you need to create a place for them to blossom. All-star volunteers don't just come when they're born. Somebody took the lead to labor with them for years to get them to that development place. And if you want awesome volunteers, if you want all-star people on your team, you're going to have to slow down and go at their pace. You're going to have to find moments where you can create for them to develop and blossom and take the ownership and the responsibility to develop them. That's very important. Your development pathways don't have to be complex, but simple. You will reap long-term benefits with short-term investments. Okay, so let me make it practical for you. The first thing you need to do is make it a normal part of your culture. When somebody onboards to your team, let them know you're going to come alongside them. You're going to give them feedback to grow them, and you're going to tell them what's going really well. That's the first way to develop someone. Just give them feedback. I love it when you do that. I think that I will encourage you to maybe continue to do this or lean into this. Normally what our team back in D.C. do every Sunday at the end of our service, we'll have a quick huddle, and I'll say, hey, things went well there. We can continue to lean into here. Have one-to-ones if you need to, right? Whatever you want to do, develop it. Make it a part of your culture. The second part, remind people why they are there. Okay? The third one, create other venues or outlets for those that may need more development. Maybe they're not ready to serve on the weekly worship team. So you need to create a choir, right? Never say no, find a way. Find a place. Take that ownership to say, nope, I'm not rejecting this gift and this desire. I'm going to find a place for you. In my Father's house, there's always a place for us. Okay, the next one is, the next ingredient is solid platform leadership. Okay, solid platform leadership. How comfortable do you feel leading from the stage? What is one area that you may need to work on? These are questions to ask yourself. Okay, our job as worship leaders is not to execute songs, but to steward the presence of God. We are facilitators and shepherds. It is not about your awesome music skill. Like my brother Edwin said earlier, and even the other day, it's like gifts can turn heads, but it won't break yokes. It is the power of God that does that. It's not about your gift. It's about stewarding the presence of God. Are you submitted to what God is doing? Okay? So let me give you some practical things really quickly. One is your presence on the platform. Be welcoming, be warm, be authentic, be genuine, be confident. If you look awkward on stage, it's going to look awkward in a room, okay? Right? Make sure you got good facial expressions, okay? If the band go on to do something and that wasn't how you hear, just keep going. Don't look over there and be like, dang, y'all messed up. Can y'all get it together? You know? If you messed up, don't be like, dang, Lord, oh my gosh, I'm so angry that I missed that note. It's not about you. It's about the people. And in moments like this, what we often forget is when we get into moments like that, we actually become distractions to what the Lord is doing. Because the attention comes off the Lord and to your face. Why they make that face? Why they respond like that? I didn't even know nothing happened there, but they showed me something happened there. You know, something happened there. I started looking, did you see that? Okay. The third one is give vocal cues. Okay, it's okay to say, hey guys, come on, let's say that again. Hey, come on, let's go back to the top. Come on, shout it out, right? This is not a concert. You don't have to be perfect, right? Tell people to sing it out loud. Encourage them there, all right? The other thing is don't impress, invite them. This is not about your vocal ability or your keys or drums and all of the fills that you can do. That becomes a distraction. Make things singable and rememberable. Okay? Make it singable. Don't let you go off in this whole run and they be like, ooh, that was nice. You became a distraction. The last one of that is create spaces for the congregation voice. Let them hear themselves. Let them hear themselves. Don't try to fill up every space. Encourage them, sing aloud. Shout it out. Come on, sing with us. Band, come down a little bit so we can hear the voices in this place. Let their faith be encouraged too. Don't drown them out. Okay? And then the last ingredient here is music excellence. Not music perfection. Music excellence. Ask yourself, are your rehearsals chaotic or controlled? Does every member of your team feel ready for Sunday? How are you showing your team that you are growing musically? These are important things to ask yourself. A healthy ministry should have music excellence. God loves excellence. God loves excellence. So I'm going to give you some practical things, and I'm going to wrap it up here. For music excellence is grow yourself. Set the bar and the pace. Show your team you are progressing. You don't have to be perfect. I don't need to know the drums. I don't need to know the keys. I don't need to know the voice. But what I am going to do is I'm going to show my team I'm progressing. Because we're all progressing, right? And the coach got to continue to go because why? Time is continuing to grow. Things are continuing to pass. All those kind of things. I got to continue to be relevant. The second thing is learn and know the basics of music theory, right? I need to know like what a key is, right? That's basic. So it says what key is A flat? I don't know, like an apple that's bitter, you know? Like, no, you need to know these things. Basic. You don't have to go to school, all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you do that, that's amazing. That's great, right? I'm not discouraging it, right? But I'm saying you should definitely know the basics. Grow. Okay? You guys have been given a gift and a responsibility. It is very important for you to steward it well. Okay? The third thing, know each instrument role so that you can communicate what is the need from that role. Right? So I need to understand what's the role of the keys, what's the role of the drums, right? What's the role of the bass and the guitar and the vocals, and how do they work together so that when I start to ask for something, I'm not like, ooh, give me that fuzzy thing that does zzz. Like, what are you talking about? Is this it? Is this it? Is this it? It becomes chaotic. Research. What are some worship sounds? What is the role of the drums? How does it keep the heartbeat and the rhythm? Right? Keep everything together. Learn that. And the last thing there is understand vocal harmony direction. Everything doesn't need harmony. Everything doesn't need splits, right? Everything doesn't need that. Understand what can be singable and rememberable for the congregation. This is not a concert. This is not a performance, right? So oftentimes I'll tell the team, like, hey, you know what? We're just going to do unison here. We could do harmony. We have the capability of doing harmony, but I think unison will be more inviting for the congregation. And so I'm making the decision that this is the vocal direction that, even though the record has done that, that worked for that environment. Everything that is may have been great in other environments does not mean that it will work in your environment. You got to be very sensible about, or sensitive to what works in this environment. So these are some essential things that I think is very, very important for building a team. God has given each and every one of you worship leaders a gift, and it's very important for you to take that gift and for you to grow it and to multiply it. There's a story in the Bible that talks about those that had the talents. One had 1, one had 2, one had 5, right? And then the ones that had multiple gifts, what they do? They took it, they invested it, they doubled it. But the one that took that one, he did what? Thank you. Come on, somebody reads their Bible. He hid it. And when he hid it, he came back, he said, what did you do with it? Oh, here you go. That's what you did? Let me take it to somebody who's going to be a good steward over what I've given. They said, you know what, how can I do more? I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be given a gift that I want to make sure that I am multiplying this gift and getting all that I can get out of this gift so that God can use me in whatever capacity. So if you're a worship leader, I'm just not going to be satisfied with just leading vocals. I'm going to learn keys. I'm going to learn drums. I'm going to learn. So whatever the need that God has for this ministry, I'm able to be used in multiple capacities. So what are the things that you have and that you possess and you're saying, God, I can multiply this? I'm still in the same area. I didn't change the area. But I did become more usable to God, more available, wherever, God, you want me to be. Whatever the need is, because there's going to be some days we need a bass player. There's going to be some days you need a keyboardist, right? Become that multifaceted leader that you are, okay? All right, thanks, guys.